Hey yo. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the zone. And when I say zone, I mean it this time. Why? Because we're about to enter a completely different world right now. A world of insanity, a world of wonder, a world of fantasy, a world of reality. But not quite what you might think of reality. We're talking about my perception of reality. Come with me, my friends. This is the start of a new patch. This is the start of a new journey. Welcome to the sagas of Christian Weston Chandler. So let's pull this one out here. Let's see, and boom. And as you can see right here, ladies and gentlemen, whole new setup, whole new arrangement. I cannot wait to hear what you guys have got to say about this. This took me a little bit of a while to get covered, but let me know what you think about the new arrangement and how fitting it is that we're doing this at the beginning of these sagas. So, let's start with the very beginning. Piedmont, Virginia Community College. The PVCC saga, as you will. Piedmont Virginity Community College is Chris's collegiate alma mater, a community college located in Charlottesville, Virginia. At PVCC, Chris earned an applied science associate's degree in computer-aided drafting and design. After 5 years of study, Chris earned his degree, even though students are expected to earn an associate's degree after 2 years in the United States. He also made the dean's list, or so he claims. Well, it was a different list, and it was probably not one for the Dean of Services, I'll say that much. Chris refers to Piedmont, Virginia Community College as the Private Villa of Corrupted Citizens, abbreviated PVCC Citizens, or, on one occasion, as Piedmont Virginity College. Oh, I see what he tried to do there. Chris actually trying to be clever. How well did that go for you, Chris? Due to the grudge he holds against the college, within the context of his Solitude comics, Christian has categorized the Private Villa of Corrupted Citizens as the headquarters for the activities of the villains of Quickville, the realm of the evil witch Mary Lee Walsh. In real life, Walsh, in her role as Dean of Student Affairs, gave Chris a hard time on his love quest, and at points shattered his heart. I'm guessing she didn't get knocked up the scale of respect. Lowering his level to nearly 0. Chris took revenge in his own imitable way, in his own imitable fashion, making her into a character in his comics, the evil witch in command of a villainous group known as the Private Villa of Corrupted Citizens. As to whether or not she took this particularly seriously, I'll leave for you to decide. Chris's academic life. Chris was probably both unwilling and unable to go to a better school, so PVCC was chosen to his collegiate career, likely by his parents. As a community college, the institution is not prestigious, accepting all applicants and not offering any degrees higher than an associate's. Nevertheless, we have its Dean of Student Services to thank for teaching, or at least attempting to teach, Chris some of the best lessons of his life, much to his chagrin. Of course. Chris began classes in PVCC in September of 2000. For reasons unknown, even to Chris, he originally chose marketing as his major job. Bob quickly transferred Chris to the CADD track, probably considering it a more attainable goal for Chris, this being a time before Bob had completely given up on Chris as a functioning adult. Chris has said very little about his college academic career, and appears to have learned even less. We do know that, by the grace of God, he graduated after 5 years, and according to the PVCC student handbook in force while Chris was a student, he had to earn the following credits to acquire his particular 2-year degree. Note that the college considered 15 credits per semester to be a normal load, and 12 to be the minimum. Here is Chris's credentials right here. English composition, 3 credits. Humanities and Fine Arts, 3 credits. Social and Behavioral Sciences, 6 credits. Natural Sciences and or Mathematics, 3 credits. Wellness, 2 credits. Student development, 1 credit. Computer aided drafting, levels 1 to 2, 6 credits. Additional CADD courses approved by advisor, 6 credits. Other occupational technical courses, 35 credits. Total, 65 credits. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to level you right now. I don't particularly know all that much about, particularly the US's college sort of system. I'm more akin to how it's handled in the UK. Well, obviously, because if I was going to like consider going to the US to study for any which reason, I would have to probably learn about any about this sort of thing, about a college considering 15 credits to be normal. Would like 17 or possibly 18 be expected higher, or possibly 20 or something like that? And we can see this lovely picture of here. I'm just going to zoom in on the image here. For reference, this is what Chris wore to college. Well, the medallion is I would say, listen, apart from the medallion, I would have said this is really not that bad. I mean, I don't know, maybe the thing about the jumper makes him look a little bit more like Bill Crosby, but Bill Cosby. But I'd say this is okay, alright. Chris's Match.com profile. Okay, now that makes sense. He probably got someone to photo that for him. And this guy over here just looks like we all do sometimes with Chris. Not angry, just disappointed. When Chris entered the college, he was required to consult with an academic and counselor who would also help him plan a schedule. He was also no doubt in close touch with the counseling center throughout his time there. Given his mandates, see below, in other words, his CADD advisor would have played a very large role in guiding Chris towards the appropriate background and prerequisite courses. The nature of this relationship is unknown, but it can be safely assumed that Chris was passive and uninterested in what was decided for him. Bob probably had more contact with the CADD faculty than Chris did. We know that Chris took at least one infamous English class. He also took tennis to fulfill his wellness requirement. You see, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I've heard, probably through some other sources, that apparently wellness programs are designed in place to more or less encourage students to take up sports as something relatively important. I don't know whether this is just a requirement as far as US mandatory education is concerned, but then again, I would say college is compulsory. Not everyone is required to go to a college or university. Similar here with the UK. We in the UK, we don't really deal with that. The clubs, the societies, we had it. And maybe this is because I went straight from sixth form to university, and I never went to a college myself. Not quite like the ones that Chris attended. The college we have here in Newcastle is simply called Newcastle College, and I'm going to assume it's somewhat similar to Piedmont, Virginia College, because you hear loads of stories about the majority, not all the students, having dabbled in drugs or recently just probably got let off tag or stuff like that. Now, that's not to say not all of those are true. In fact, if I had to be completely honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I would be honestly 100% sure that at least 94% of all the stories you hear about Newcastle College are completely untrue. It's just, you know what, I'm pretty sure there were nice people at Newcastle College, because you know what, I bet there are nice people even in prison. You just gotta know where to look sometimes. And if you're looking in the wrong places, well, you're only gonna find the wrong people. It's as simple as that. We know that Chris took at least one infamous English class. He also took a course in HTML. To learn more, someone will need to dig through Chris's trash again. Just go to his house. His house is basically one giant bin bag. One mystery is why it took Chris so long to finish, even taking his suspension into account. He needed 10 semesters to earn a degree, which officially should have taken 4. Chris has never indicated that he had academic trouble, consistently asserting on his contemporary dating site profiles that he was doing just fine. The only exception being his prejudiced jerk English professor. One factor might have been the switch in majors from marketing to CADD. He would not have been able to count specific marketing classes towards his new degree. Another possibility is that he was going to college part-time, preferring to spend a greater portion of his days playing video. So he was only a part-time student. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I was never a part-time student. Not through secondary school, not through sixth form, not or even through university. I was never a part-timer. But you know what? That brings me on to something I was actually going to say. But you know what? I think I'll leave it towards the end because I should have wanted to say something about the whole idea of college and this sort of compulsory as opposed to optional education. Because okay, I'll get into that later. Kicked out of English. Chris's first great PVCC trauma occurred when he was kicked out of an English class on his birthday. Happy birthday to Chris. At one point, Chris claimed that his class was reading Wednesday's Child, a story about an autistic girl who brutally murders people. I've never heard of that story. Chris said that he told his male professor that he too was autistic. This apparently resulted in Chris's rejection from the class on the 24th of February 2003, so when he was 21 years old. Yep. And many tears were shed. According to... I've got to remember to turn my phone off when I'm trying to do these. According to Chris, the reason for his ejection was the professor's misunderstanding and fear of autism. Scared of autism. I'm pretty sure Wednesday's Child was just a story and it didn't really happen. Chris later passed the course when he retook it with a female professor. Oh, now it makes sense, I think. Of course, Chris's account of the story bears little resemblance to reality. Don't they all? In conversations with his gal pal years afterward, Chris admitted that the topic of homosexuality had come up in a group discussion in class. Chris made a derogatory and inappropriate comment. In his words, he emitted exclamations you likely hear from a black person in church. Oh boy. And was promptly told to leave the classroom. No, I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. What exactly he said will forever remain a mystery, but given the circumstances, it must have been fairly severe. It may have been that the professor was gay himself. PVCC gave professors considerable leeway in disciplining their students from the 04 to 06 Student Handbook. Quote, when unruly or otherwise unacceptable behavior occurs in a classroom or laboratory, the instructor may immediately have the student who is causing the problem leave the classroom. It is the student's responsibility to contact the instructor as soon as possible, and at the latest before the next meeting of the class or lab to attempt to reconcile the problem. If not resolved, and or in the most serious cases, such as when a student has previously been removed from the class, or when the behavior is a serious violation of the rights of others, i.e. threats of violence or other acts of hostility, the faculty member may prefer to deny the student's return to the course. In these cases, the faculty member must file a written charge, available in the Admissions and Records Office, that proposes the removal of the student from the course. Once a charge is filled, the case will be settled by following the procedure for making and hearing charges against students. You see, what you would gather from that is that they were to give Chris numerous chances. It said right there that there was the opportunity available towards Chris to be able to rectify or right or wrong in certain problems. But given we know about his expulsion and possibly owing to maybe his part-time behavior, I'm going to assume Chris did not try to say sorry, basically. The handbook defined disorderly conduct as including loud noise that is disruptive to college functions, obscene or abusive language or gestures, or threatening or hostile language. This pretty much covers the waterfront of Chris's typical behaviours. Given that Chris never reads the fine print or even the large print, he was doubtlessly unaware of these legalistic necessities. Chris has not specified whether he was actually permanently expelled from the class by the professor, or if he just chose not to return. At any rate, according to Chris, after being kicked out, he sat at a table by himself and cried, as well as reinforcing Chris's hatred of men. This event also, albeit for no obvious reasons, inspired Chris to begin his love quest. Yeah, that's just doing something completely out of the broom that defies reality or can make any situation better is nothing out of the norm for Chris. You gotta remember, ladies and gentlemen, is that Chris is the sort of person who believes that if he cries loud enough, or if he wails loud enough, or if he threatens loud enough, he will get people to listen to him, and the problem will just go away of its own accord. Yeah. You see, this is usually the sort of thing that I would say 5, 6, 7-year-olds just will quickly grow out of. You know, I've never once seen a scenario, from my own experience, I've never seen any scenario since I was any older than, let's say, 8 years old, when anybody pulled this sort of, tantrum, as it were. Kicked out of college. When fall semester began in the 4th year of Chris's education, he began his love quest in earnest. Academia be damned. For 2 months, Chris taped his attraction sign to the wall in the PVCC lobby, usually standing or sitting next to it. On the 7th of October 2003, however, Chris fell prey to Mary Lee Walsh, the Dean of Student Services, who allegedly ripped up his sign, yelled at him in a very violent manner, and harshly criticized his methods. Given Chris's history of delusional thinking and revising past events when it comes to confrontations with authority figures, it is highly unlikely that this is what transpired. When Chris assumed she was simply a force of pure malice dedicated to keeping him a frustrated virgin. Her official justification is not known, although the likeliest given reasons was simply that Chris was soliciting sex on college property, which, unsurprisingly, created an uncomfortable environment for the unfortunate females he was undoubtedly leering at, as well as the jerk males he was glowering at. It also makes sense because I believe that soliciting sex for profit, I believe, is at least illegal in the state of Virginia. I don't know if it's soliciting sex for, prostitution, more or less, is technically illegal in the state of Virginia. So I don't particularly know. But then again, this does imply soliciting sex. But even if that was not Chris's intention, from other people's perspective, they would have said that possibly this could have been a reason for, especially if he had at all listed that his love quest was purely inspired so that he can conceive a child. Well, not him conceiving a child, the female in question. You get the idea. If he had mentioned that at all, that is probably enough evidence to suggest that this was purely motivated by nothing more than sex. That is, I would say, if you were to look at this in a legal perspective, or possibly with a legal slant, you could possibly say that's exactly why he was forced to tear this up, because, like I said, it's soliciting, it's more or less breaking the law by doing this. But then again, it does beg the question. Well, no, actually, I'll tell you what, let's not go into that any further. In any case, Chris made another sign and put it up, but it was simply torn down again. For the rest of the semester, Chris stopped his solicitation. Sorry guys, let me try that again. In any case, Chris made another sign and put it up, but it was simply torn down again. For the rest of the semester, Chris stopped his solicitations, but in the new year, he implemented his new plan. He inundated the campus with copies of his monthly Solitude's News Dash. This publication was predictably chiefly concerned with Chris and his all-consuming need for a girlfriend, with the Solitude franchise firmly in his periphery. It can be assumed Chris also began using the attraction sign again to supplement his pamphleteering. How did I had no problem saying the word pamphleteering, and then I would say, like, inundated. I don't know why I had such a difficulty saying that word. At this stage, the college had numerous legal avenues they could take to force Chris to stop. I could name at least probably all of them. The pamphleteering, as Chris was doing it, was blatantly illegal. Before beginning distribution of petitions, handbills, signs, or pieces of literature, students or registered student organizations, individuals or group must submit to the Student Activities Office a copy of such for distribution approval. I actually did this, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you right now. I was actually going to go to the student union to actually find out if there was a form I had to sign in terms of, like, soliciting pamphlets or petitions or, anything like this. And I never got back in touch. I never received any notice that any such form existed, or if this was, you could even do this at Northumbria University. I never received anything like that. I don't know whether they just never got back in touch with me. I don't know if I'm pretty sure because listen, if I would have known if I received an email. I'm just saying that I never got these things, and unfortunately, that's just how it ended up to being. I pretty much stuck to just using, because this was during my third year as well. When I was trying to, like, grow my YouTube channel, so I pretty much just stuck with this and just stuck to just putting stuff out left, right, and center. I am gonna talk a little bit about my university education as soon as this is over, but looking back on, okay, let's just stay focused. If this wasn't enough, the college also defined illegal activities as including misuse of public or private property, sexual harassment, distribution of normal functioning of the college, harassment of any other person on college property, and violation of any other college policy or regulation. Chris defined every one of these literally hundreds of times. I don't know why on earth. It strikes me as very odd that Chris never got arrested for any of these offences, or at least was slapped with a fine of some kind, because they couldn't have just ignored this after the 2 or 3 times he did this. Chris managed to get out 2 issues of the news dash before direct intervention occurred. In late January 2004, he was summoned to a meeting with Walsh as well as Susan Hanifan from the Office at Advertisement and Counselling, who specialised in disability support services, who, considering her position, would have been extremely courteous and obliging to Chris to the extent possible, and would also have a good understanding of Chris's condition. Chris, however, despised Hanifan and was giving her the silent treatment. At this time, something Susan probably would have been happy about. At the February 9th meeting, Chris was told in no uncertain terms that he could not distribute the news dash, and presumably was also ordered again not to use his sign either. According to him, he incurred a hargooning from Walsh, who, for her troubles, found herself on the receiving end of a lecture from Sonichu, punctuated by a loud "Kurse Yame." You have to wonder what kind of problems Chris, well, we're seeing it right now, but all of the problems that Chris was causing Mary Lee Walsh. I'm straight up surprised that Mary Lee Walsh decided not to just interrupt Chris right there and slap him with a fine, or basically an ultimatum. Continue doing this and you're going to be not only taken from the course, you're going to be completely expelled from Piedmont, or you could stop this now and we'll forget it and we can move on, but you are on notice, pal. If I was in Mary Lee Walsh's position, that's exactly what I've done. He was on notice anyway, and this is not making his situation any better. Chris then, unfortunately, given that we know how stubborn and Chris's ego is literally the largest you will ever see the world over, it's fairly likely that nothing was ever going to convince Chris otherwise. Chris then significantly escalated the situation. See, here we go. He's doing it right now in 2 ways. Upon returning home from his meeting, he wrote in his diary, I am very angry at that. Right, in response, I plan to incite the masses and hope they demand the return the news dash so my chances on getting a girlfriend can be restored. I have also declared war on them as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that'll go over just fine. The following day, he posted on his website, Solitude's news dash was taken down by Mary Lee Walsh. Mary Lee Walsh has taken the Solitude's news dash and made it illegal on PVCC property. But it is not too late. Go to Mary's office and demand that the news dash should stay running on Piedmont. I don't know why I'm doing the voice. I just thought it was kind of funny. Also, I don't particularly know if Chris actually wrote in bold here. I don't think it. To annoy her, send her an email. Again, actively trying to tell people. It's just basically harass with this nonsense. CWC's evil glare. Okay. You know, even for a Yu-Gi-Oh card, this isn't even the worst he's designed. Apart from maybe the O in this corner. He helpfully included a link. Oh yeah, so but that would be very easy for the police or the college or Mary Walsh himself to trace down exactly who is telling them and how they got this information. Chris also sent Walsh an angry note which communicated an intimidating glare in a pictorial fashion. Walsh correctly interpreted this as harassment, and accordingly, she set in motion disciplinary procedures. On paper, any member of the PVCC community who initiated charges against a student would have said charges investigated by the Dean of Student Services. In this case, however, it was the dean herself who was the one filing the charges. How the college dealt with this paradox is unknown. Perhaps one of Mary's colleagues investigated instead. What is clear, however, is that Chris has stupidly attacked the one person at the college who was the most knowledgeable about how to expel students. Way to go, Chris. It is also almost certain that Walsh herself would not have partaken in the disciplinary decision concerning Chris, as she was involved in the incidents and thus would have been obligated to abstain from judgment. Again, on paper, Chris would have been given 5 days to address the allegations against him. At this point, the college had the choice to simply give Chris a written warning. Instead, they wisely decided to treat the matter seriously enough to assemble the college hearing committee, which would discuss the possibility of suspension or expulsion. In 10 days, there would be a hearing, to which Chris could bring people to defend him. I'd love to see the amount of people who would have come. It would have been his parents. They would have been the only people who would have defend. Well, actually, you know what? Not defend, but basically haggle and try to reason with the committee, because how can you justify this exactly? In reality, there were several hearings, and the decision to suspend Chris wasn't made until September. It is almost a certainty that Chris allowed others to fight this battle for him. In this case, his parents, and knowing what we do about Bob and Bob, they likely fought tooth and nail to shield Chris from the slightest punishment. On the 2nd of March, Walsh met with Chris and his parents and, in his words, tried to frame me, just to give her an excuse to boot me out of PVCC. This angered Chris and his parents. On the 16th of September 2004, Chris was informed that he had been suspended for 1 year. In order to return, he would need to take anger management classes, get a psychological evaluation, and receive social skills counseling. Thus, we have the autism papers. He apparently completed these tasks and was allowed to return to campus, and he was attending classes again in fall of 2005. Graduation. After spending 5 years on a degree that is expected to take only 2, Chris graduated with an associate's degree in applied science and a CADD certificate. Chris was repeatedly and fallaciously claimed to have 2 degrees, seemingly not understanding that his certificate and his associate's degree are 2 separate things. As opposed to his high school graduation, Chris didn't seem to care about graduating from college, likely because of his perceived antagonization during his studies there. On the big day, Chris wore not only his solitary medallion, but his gown, tassel, and honor roll from high school. During the 5th of August 2014, years after graduation, Chris would attempt to make up with Walsh by sending her a bunch of apology letters. In reality, it was just a bunch of incoherent ramblings in paper from about the stress brought upon by the trolls and bans from his favourite haunts. This is despite the fact that they didn't discover him till 2007. He goes on to mention that anything bad that's happened to her is the result of himself drawing her as a witch. An act he was entirely justified in performing due to her interference in the sweetheart search, but which he is sorry for anyways. Walsh would simply respond with a permanent ban from the PVCC campus. Wow. All that, and he actually managed to get himself banned. That's just brilliant. Okay, so that was the end of the first pretty much big saga for Chris. The PVCC. Where have I found the thing? Sagas. Okay, yeah. So this is the pretty much the end of the very first saga of PVCC, and there's going to be a bunch of these going forth. Technically, we've kind of already done the dimensional merge one, but I don't know if there's anything new to mention or anything I haven't brought up yet. Then I'll possibly go into that possibly some other time. Now, just before we go, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just resize this just accordingly. And now, as I was going to allude to earlier, there were some things I kind of wanted to say about my university education. I spent 3 years at Northumbria University, and in 3 years I earned my. And I know it's in my closet somewhere. It's pretty much the first thing you can see. I earned my 2-2 in the. I earned my bachelor's degree, lower division, and I got a 2-2. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say to you right now, and I'm going to give you all some life advice. If I went back in time, I actually would have decided to take a year out, and instead of going straight into university, I would go to Newcastle College first. I would spend about as much time studying the stuff like basic computer-aided animation skills that they would have taught at university, and also possibly just done more and more and more investigations and the procedures specifically to get to where I wanted to go to. The biggest problem I had at university is I went straight in, thought it was going to be a cakewalk, found out it was the single most complex and the most difficult thing I could have possibly. If you would put anything else in front of me, I probably would have found it just as difficult, but in the case of what I was going for, it was not only so difficult and so mind-bendingly intricate, the procedures, and not to mention how difficult it, because listen, I'm not really a big computer guy. I sort of wanted to do more hand-based stuff. But then again, I suppose that's just the way of the world, isn't it? And I suppose you could say it was my stubbornness that if I know fine well I could have tried much harder. I'm absolutely not going to deny that, ladies and gentlemen. There was a lot of things I regretted doing. Who doesn't regret anything in life? There were certain other things that I wanted to do differently. So this has brought me to a very, very interesting sort of decision. You know, guys, listen. If you know what I really want to do, ladies and gentlemen? I kind of I don't want to say make amends, but you know what? I want to work to give myself to somebody to give me a second chance. Let's say if I reach 30, I build up a portfolio. I built up skills I've always wanted to learn and research in. If I went back and whether or not they would have established the courses as different or whether or not everything was changed by then, I wanted to go in, try it again, but this time not only come away with a much higher degree than the one I got, I want to move to do a master's degree. I want to build my craft. I want to be able to do the things that I know I want, because there were a lot of parts about the degree in which I wish I really could have like moved on, or possibly just built up so much that I could move to actually building enough to do a master's degree. But you know what? I don't know why. Maybe I was just too much of a coward to really, follow myself into trying for a much higher degree or trying to get into a master's or anything like that. If I could do it all again, you know what? I would. But you know what? I don't want to go back. I want to look ahead to the future. I want to find out if maybe in 8 years, maybe in 10 years, I could try my university career again. I want to try and, amend the things that I did wrong. I first started university education at September of 2016, and I earned it was the 4th of September 2016 is when I first started my animation course, and I got my degree on the 4th of July 2019. I am nearly a whole year after I got my degree. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? If there's anything you could see down here, like the new layout, this is only the beginning. I'm going to build myself up. I'm going to reinvent myself up. As Nat King Cole said himself, take a deep breath, and start all over again. If you slip, be grateful for a pleasant trip and pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try the very hardest I can, because you know what? My dreams, my aspirations have not stopped. They have never once stopped. If anything, I am working even harder towards them, but not in aspects that I don't think are gonna help me. I should be the only person who decides what should be the best for me, and work myself towards it by getting better at the things that I wanted to get better at and the things I struggled with in the first place. I will invest so much money into it, and even right now, as you can see before, this is in some ways an investment, and irregardless of whether I succeed or fail, if I don't try, you don't get anywhere in life if you don't try. It's almost like if I didn't, it's not so much like one step forward or 2 steps backwards. It's actually like taking 10 steps sideways. You think you're going forward, but you're still you're in the same place, just further away. You're not any closer or going any backwards. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going sideways, but I'm going to find a different side of this mountain to scale. I'm going to try something different, and that's actually advice that I know Bob did give Chris, that there are multiple sides of a mountain and there are many different ways to climb it. And you know what? I didn't necessarily think I would end this by taking advice from Bob Franklin Bob Chandler Jr. of all people, but you know what? I like the advice. I'm actually not going to lie. So if I want you guys to take anything away from this, is that whether or not I know it's not exactly the best thing to talk about right now because of COVID-19. I know that there are a lot of people who are either studying or have completely put university or college or anything like that on hold at the moment. I just want to say right now, if you feel like you're doing bad in university or college or school or anything like that, don't take that as to mean that you can't get better at something. You know what? So if you need a bit of time out, then you know what? Take some time out. Tell people that you want to, take some time away. You're not quitting. You just need to find out what's up, and then you can get back into the game. You know what? Again, I think there were so many things that I could have done differently. There were so many things that I wish I'd done differently. But you know what? That was then, and this is now. And you know what? if I ever do get back, if I actually do ever get myself back into university education. Because listen, I've met people who were in their 50s a number of years ago who were taking courses on education. A really, really good friend of mine I made at university, he actually attended university. This was only his second time going to university, and this guy was in his mid-30s, and his skills are absolutely phenomenal. He has homegrown his skills, and this guy I think he was like about my age when he first graduated, went through a bunch of years just not entirely sure what to do. He became a postman, and he came back, and boom, he's making himself animated music videos. He's doing a whole bunch of stuff. And you know what? He decided that he wanted to give another crack at the whip. You know what? Why shouldn't I? It all depends on whether or not this is actually what you really want. Whether you understand the risks, but are you going to screw up twice? That's the big question. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, just before we end off, I'll say this once, and we can pretty much call it a day here. Is it what you really want? And that's it. Nobody else can make that decision except for yourself. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed the PVCC saga of courtesy on the Wikipedia. Please also make sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the video, of the reading yourself. And I hope to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.